The Instructions of Shuruppak. An important piece of Sumerian wisdom literature circa 3000 BC. We are going to explore a fascinating piece of ancient literature known as the Instructions of Shuruppak. This text is one of the oldest known literary works, dating back to around 2600 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia. It provides us with valuable insights into the wisdom and values of early human civilization. Some items in this text could not have been translated or has been lost, and the word "dot" will be used instead. In those days, in those far remote days, in those nights, in those faraway nights, in those years, in those far remote years, at that time the wise one who knew how to speak in elaborate words lived in the land Shuruppak. The wise one who knew how to speak with elaborate words lived in the land. Shuruppak gave instructions to his son Shuruppak. The son of Tutu gave instructions to his son Zi-ud-sura. My son, let me give you instructions, you should pay attention. Zi-ud-sura, let me speak a word to you, you should pay attention. Do not neglect my instructions. Do not transgress the words I speak. The instructions of an old man are precious, you should comply with them. The Instructions of Shuruppak presents ancient wisdom passed down from Shuruppak to his son, Zi-ud-sura, emphasizing the importance of paying heed to wise counsel and respecting tradition. Shuruppak, known for his eloquence, imparts valuable instructions to guide his son's conduct and decisions. This passage underscores the reverence for ancestral wisdom and the duty to follow it diligently, highlighting the enduring value of learning from previous generations for personal and societal well-being. You should not buy a donkey which brays. It will split ... your midriff ... On a literal level, this line advises against purchasing a donkey that is known for braying loudly and frequently. In ancient times, a donkey was a valuable asset used for transportation and carrying loads. A noisy donkey could be disruptive and unpleasant to have around. This part uses metaphorical language. The phrase "split your midriff" suggests causing distress or trouble. It implies that the donkey's incessant braying will be so irritating and stressful that it will cause you physical discomfort or emotional distress. This advice can be seen as a broader metaphor for making wise choices in general. It suggests that one should be cautious and discerning when making decisions, particularly those involving investments or commitments. The instruction teaches the importance of avoiding choices that come with clear and foreseeable issues. Just as a braying donkey would be a constant annoyance, making any choice that has obvious downsides will lead to unnecessary trouble. It also underscores the idea of thinking ahead and considering the long-term consequences of one's actions. Buying a problematic donkey may save money initially, but will cause greater issues in the long run. You should not locate a field on a road. You should not plough a field at a road or a path. You should not make a well in your field. People will cause damage on it for you. You should not place your house next to a public square. There is always a crowd there. The advice discourages situating personal or agricultural spaces in locations where they are exposed to the public, thereby minimizing intrusion, potential damage, and disturbances. This emphasizes the importance of privacy and protection of one's property and resources. The teachings stress the value of strategic planning. Choosing the right location for fields, wells, and homes can prevent future problems and ensure better management of resources and personal well-being. Next quote. You should not vouch for someone. That man will have a hold on you. And you yourself, you should not let somebody vouch for you. That man will despise. You. In ancient Mesopotamian society, social and economic interactions often depended on personal relationships and trust. Vouching for someone meant putting one's own reputation and resources at stake for another person's actions. In a historical context, vouching for someone could involve legal and financial liabilities. If the person vouched for failed to meet their obligations or committed a wrongdoing, the one who vouched could be held responsible. This piece of advice reflects the social values and norms of ancient Mesopotamian society. It underscores the importance of personal responsibility, trustworthiness, and the potential pitfalls of social dependencies. Next quote. You should not make an inspection on a man the flood will give it back to you. In summary, this highlights the significance of ethical behavior and the belief in natural retribution for unjust actions. It advises against intrusive or unfair scrutiny of others, suggesting that such behavior will ultimately lead to negative consequences, much like a flood's inevitable return. This reflects the ancient Mesopotamian values of fairness, respect for individual boundaries, and the moral order governed by natural or divine forces. The lesson remains relevant today, reminding us of the importance of integrity and the potential repercussions of unethical conduct. You should not loiter about where there is a quarrel. You should not let the quarrel make you a witness. You should not let yourself in a quarrel. You should not cause a quarrel. The gate of the palace. Stand aside from a quarrel. You should not take another road. In summary, it advises against being present at or becoming a witness to conflicts, and promotes a culture of peace and impartiality. This reflects the ancient Mesopotamian values of social stability, non-violence, and personal integrity, offering timeless wisdom on the benefits of steering clear of disputes and fostering a peaceful community. Next quote. You should not steal anything, you should not. Yourself. You should not break into a house, you should not wish for the money chest. A thief is a lion, but after he has been caught, he will be a slave. My son, you should not commit robbery, you should not cut yourself with an axe. This passage advises against theft and unethical behavior. It warns against stealing and coveting others' possessions, emphasizing the eventual consequences of such actions. The comparison of a thief to a lion highlights their boldness but predicts their downfall and punishment once caught. The advice, conveyed from father to son, stresses the importance of integrity and personal responsibility. The mention of not cutting oneself with an axe serves as a metaphorical warning against self-destructive behavior. Overall, it promotes ethical conduct and warns of the consequences of dishonesty and greed in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not make a young man best man. You should not. Yourself. You should not play around with a married young woman. The slander could be serious. My son, you should not sit alone in a chamber with a married woman. This excerpt advises against certain social behaviors to uphold moral integrity and avoid potential consequences. It discourages appointing a young man as a best man, likely due to concerns about maturity or reliability. The text warns against engaging in inappropriate relationships or situations with married women, highlighting the risk of serious gossip or slander. This advice, delivered as paternal guidance, emphasizes the importance of maintaining proper boundaries and respect in personal interactions. Overall, it reflects ancient Mesopotamian values of propriety, fidelity, and the avoidance of behaviors that could lead to social or personal complications. Next quote. You should not pick a quarrel. You should not disgrace yourself. You should not lies. You should not boast, then your words will be trusted. You should not deliberate for too long. You cannot bear glances. This passage advises on maintaining personal integrity and social harmony. It cautions against starting arguments or behaving in ways that bring shame. The instruction to avoid spreading lies and boasting underscores the importance of honesty and humility to earn trust. The warning against deliberating too long suggests the need for decisiveness and the avoidance of indecision, which can lead to scrutiny or doubt from others. Overall, these teachings emphasize the values of integrity, sincerity, and assertiveness in personal conduct within ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not eat stolen food with anyone, in brackets a thief. You should not sink your hand into blood. After you have apportioned the bones, you will be made to restore the ox, you will be made to restore the sheep. This passage advises against participating in theft or violence. It warns against sharing stolen food, associating with thieves, or involving oneself in violent acts symbolized by sinking your hand into blood. The consequences for such actions are emphasized through the requirement to repay or restore what has been taken, suggesting accountability and restitution. Overall, the text promotes ethical behavior, respect for others' property, and the avoidance of criminal activities in ancient Mesopotamian society, reflecting values of justice, integrity, and personal responsibility. Next quote. You should not speak improperly. Later it will lay a trap for you. This line advises against speaking improperly, highlighting the potential consequences of careless or inappropriate speech. It suggests that words spoken thoughtlessly or inappropriately may lead to negative outcomes or traps in the future. This advice emphasizes the importance of thoughtful communication and the impact words can have on one's reputation, relationships, and overall well-being. In an ancient Mesopotamian society, where social interactions and reputation were crucial, this teaching underscores the value of maintaining integrity and discretion in speech to avoid misunderstandings, conflicts, or other harmful repercussions. Next quote. You should not scatter your sheep into unknown pastures. You should not hire someone's ox for an uncertain . A safe . means a safe journey. This passage advises prudence and caution in managing one's possessions and engagements, emphasizing the importance of keeping track of and caring for one's possessions to ensure their safety and well-being. Similarly, it warns against borrowing from someone else for unclear or unspecified purposes, suggesting the risk of misunderstandings or disputes. The phrase "a safe" means a safe journey, reinforces the idea that careful planning and reliable resources contribute to a secure and successful outcome. Overall, the text promotes foresight, responsibility, and careful management of resources in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not travel during the night. It can hide both good and evil. This line advises against nighttime travel due to its inherent risks. Traveling at night obscures visibility, making it difficult to discern between safe paths and potential dangers. It suggests that darkness can conceal both positive opportunities and negative threats, making it a time of uncertainty and vulnerability. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where travel often involved perilous journeys and natural hazards, this advice underscores the importance of caution and planning, ensuring safety and security by avoiding journeys when visibility is compromised. Next quote. You should not buy an onager. It lasts ... only until the end of the day. This advice cautions against making hasty or impractical purchases. An onager, a type of wild donkey or ass, is known for its fleeting value or utility. The statement suggests that buying such an animal is imprudent because its usefulness diminishes quickly, possibly within a single day. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where resources were often scarce and decisions about livestock were crucial for survival, this advice underscores the importance of making informed, long-term investments rather than indulging in short-lived acquisitions that may not provide lasting benefit. Next quote. "You should not have sex with your slave girl. She will chew you up. This line advises against engaging in sexual relations with a slave girl. It warns of potential consequences, suggesting that such actions could lead to conflict or harm. The phrase "she will chew you up" metaphorically implies that taking advantage of someone in a subordinate position may result in betrayal, manipulation, or other negative outcomes. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where slavery was practiced, this guidance emphasizes respect for others' dignity and cautions against exploiting power dynamics for personal gain. Next quote. "You should not curse strongly. It rebounds on you." This line advises against using strong curses or negative language. It warns that the negative energy or harm intended through curses can boomerang back to affect the person who uttered them. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where beliefs in the power of words and spiritual repercussions were significant, this advice underscores the importance of restraint and mindfulness in speech. It cautions against causing harm through verbal expressions and encourages responsible communication to maintain personal integrity and avoid unintended consequences. Next quote. "You should not draw up water which you cannot reach, grasp. It will make you weak." This line advises against attempting tasks beyond one's capability. It metaphorically warns against striving for unreachable goals or exerting oneself excessively, as it may lead to exhaustion or failure. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where daily tasks like drawing water were essential for survival, this advice underscores the importance of practicality and conserving one's strength. It encourages prioritizing manageable efforts to maintain physical well-being and ensure successful completion of tasks without unnecessary strain or risk of negative consequences. Next quote. "You should not drive away a debtor. He will be hostile towards you." This line advises against treating debtors harshly, as it may lead to resentment and hostility. It highlights the importance of handling financial matters with fairness and understanding to maintain positive relationships and avoid potential conflicts or retaliation. Next quote. "You should not establish a home with an arrogant man. He will make your life like that of a slave girl. You will not be able to travel through any human dwelling without being shouted at. There you go. There you go." This passage advises against forming close relationships or living arrangements with arrogant individuals. It warns that associating with such people can lead to a diminished quality of life, akin to being subservient or belittled. The reference to being shouted at suggests that arrogance creates a hostile environment where one's actions and movements are constantly criticized or scrutinized. In ancient Mesopotamian society, where social status and respect were significant, this guidance emphasizes the importance of choosing companions wisely and maintaining dignity and autonomy in interpersonal relationships. Next quote. "You should not undo the ... of the garden's reed fence, restore it. Restore it, they will say to you." This line is emphasizing the importance of respecting property boundaries and maintaining communal trust in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. "You should not provide a stranger ... with food you should not wipe out ... a quarrel." As crucial information is missing, this quote is misunderstood. This excerpt could advise against giving food to strangers and intervening disputes that do not concern you. It suggests avoiding unnecessary involvement in unfamiliar or potentially contentious situations to maintain personal safety and social harmony in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. My son, you should not use violence. You should not commit rape on someone's daughter. The courtyard will learn of it. This passage advises against using violence or committing sexual assault. It warns that such actions will not remain hidden and will likely lead to public disgrace or repercussions. It emphasizes the importance of respecting others' safety, dignity, and societal norms in ancient Mesopotamian culture. Next quote. You should not drive away a powerful man. You should not destroy the outer wall. You should not drive away a young man. You should not make him turn against the city. This passage advises against provoking or alienating influential or young men, as it could lead to destabilizing consequences for the community or city. It emphasizes the importance of maintaining unity and avoiding actions that could harm social cohesion or lead to conflict. Next quote. The eyes of the slanderer always move around as shiftily as a spindle. You should never remain in his presence. His intentions should not be allowed to have an effect on you. This passage warns against associating with slanderous individuals whose deceitful behavior can harm others. It advises avoiding their presence to protect oneself from their negative influence and malicious intentions. It emphasizes the importance of discernment and avoiding those who spread falsehoods in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not boast in beer halls, breweries like a deceitful man, then your words will be trusted. This passage advises against boasting or exaggerating one's accomplishments in social settings, particularly beer halls or breweries. It suggests that genuine humility earns trust and respect, contrasting with deceitful behavior that undermines credibility. It highlights the importance of honesty and modesty in communication within ancient Mesopotamian social gatherings. Next quote. Having reached the field of manhood, you should not jump with your hand. The warrior is unique. He alone is the equal of many. You too is unique. He alone is the equal of many. With your life, you should always be on the side of the warrior. With your life, you should always be on the side of you too. Shuruppak gave these instructions to his son. Shuruppak, the son of Ubara-Tutu, gave these instructions to his son Zi-ud-sura. This passage encourages young men to act decisively and bravely, like a warrior. It emphasizes the valor and strength of warriors and the sun god Utu, urging alignment with their qualities in life's pursuits. It promotes courage, loyalty, and valor in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A second time, Shuruppak gave instructions to his son. Shuruppak, the son of Ubara-Tutu, gave instructions to his son Ziusudra. My son, let me give you instructions. You should pay attention. Zi-ud-sura, let me speak a word to you. You should pay attention. Do not neglect my instructions. Do not transgress the words I speak. The instructions of an old man are precious. You should comply with them. In this passage, Shuruppak emphasizes the importance of attentive listening and obedience to his teachings for his son Ziusudra. He stresses the value of wisdom passed down through generations, urging respect for elder guidance and adherence to moral instructions in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. The beer-drinking mouth. My little one. The beer-drinking mouth. Ninkasi. This fragment likely refers to the enjoyment of beer, possibly invoking the goddess Ninkasi, associated with brewing in Mesopotamian mythology. It reflects cultural practices surrounding beer consumption, highlighting its significance in social and religious contexts within ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. Your own man will not repay it for you. The reed beds are. They can hide slander. This passage suggests caution in trusting even those close to you, implying they may not always support or protect your interests. The reference to reed beds hiding slander underscores the potential for deceit or betrayal even in seemingly benign environments, advising vigilance. Next quote. The palace is like a mighty river. Its middle is goring bulls. What flows in is never enough to fill it, and what flows out can never be stopped. This passage compares a palace to a powerful river, suggesting it consumes resources like goring bulls in its centre. It implies insatiable demand and continuous outflow, symbolizing the vastness and perpetual activity of a palace in ancient Mesopotamian society, where wealth and resources were central to its operation. Next quote. When it is about someone else's bread, it is easy to say, "I will give it to you," but the time of actual giving can be as far away as the sky. If you go after the man who said, "I will give it to you," he will say, "I cannot give it to you. The bread has just been finished up." This passage cautions against trusting promises of generosity, especially when it involves someone else's possessions. It warns that assurances of giving may not materialize when pursued, as excuses like the sudden unavailability of the item may arise, highlighting the fickleness of promises. Next quote. Property is something to be expanded. But nothing can equal my little ones. This passage suggests that while material wealth and property can be accumulated and expanded, nothing is as valuable or cherished as one's own children or loved ones. It emphasizes the prioritization of family and personal relationships over material possessions. Next quote. The artistic mouth recites words. The harsh mouth brings litigation documents. The sweet mouth gathers sweet herbs. This passage describes different roles or abilities associated with different types of speech. It suggests that artistic speech is for reciting poetry or words of beauty, harsh speech is for dealing with legal matters, and sweet speech is for gathering friendships. Next quote. The garrulous liar fills, his bread bag, the haughty one brings an empty bag and can fill his empty mouth only with boasting. This passage contrasts two types of individuals based on their actions and attitudes. It criticizes the garrulous, or liar, who accumulates material wealth deceitfully. Conversely, it criticizes the haughty person who boasts without substance, highlighting the emptiness of their words and actions in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. Who works with leather will eventually work with his own leather. This line suggests that those who engage in certain trades or professions will eventually experience the consequences or outcomes of their own work. It implies a sense of accountability or karma for one's actions and skills. Next quote. The strong one can escape, from anyone's hand. This line suggests that a physically strong individual has the ability to free themselves from anyone's grasp or control. It implies that strength can provide a means of independence or autonomy in ancient Mesopotamian society, where physical prowess was highly valued. Next quote. The fool loses something. When sleeping, the fool loses something. Do not tie me up, he pleads, let me live, he pleads. This passage highlights the consequences of foolish behavior. It suggests that a fool is prone to losing things or getting into trouble, even pleading for leniency or survival when facing the consequences of their actions. It underscores the risks of imprudence. Next quote. The imprudent decrees fates. The shameless one piles up things in another's lap. I am such that I deserve admiration. This passage criticizes those who act imprudently or shamelessly. It suggests that imprudence leads to unfavorable outcomes, such as decreeing unfortunate fates, while shameless behavior involves taking credit for achievements that rightfully belong to others, highlighting the pitfalls of arrogance in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A weak wife is always seized by fate. This line implies that a vulnerable or powerless wife is often subject to unfortunate circumstances beyond her control. It suggests that lacking strength or agency leaves one susceptible to adversity or misfortune in ancient Mesopotamian society's patriarchal structure. Next quote. If you hire a worker, he will share the bread bag with you. He eats with you from the same bag and finishes up the bag with you. Then he will quit working with you and, saying I have to live on something, he will serve at the palace. This passage advises caution when hiring workers. It suggests that after sharing resources and working together, a worker may leave to seek better opportunities, citing the need to sustain themselves. It underscores the transient nature of labor relationships and economic stability in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You tell your son to come to your home, you tell your daughter to go to her women's quarters. This passage outlines traditional gender roles within the household. It instructs sons to come to the father's home, likely to inherit responsibilities or participate in family affairs. Daughters, in contrast, are directed to go to their designated women's quarters, reflecting societal norms of separation and division of roles in ancient Mesopotamian culture. Next quote. You should not pass judgment when you drink beer. This line advises against making decisions or judgments while under the influence of beer. It implies that alcohol impairs one's ability to think clearly or fairly, cautioning against hasty or biased decisions in ancient Mesopotamian social settings. Next quote. You should not worry unduly about what leaves the house. This line advises against excessive concern over things that are no longer in one's possession or control. It suggests letting go of unnecessary worry about lost or departed items, emphasizing acceptance and detachment in managing belongings in ancient Mesopotamian life. Next quote. Heaven is far, earth is most precious, but it is with heaven that you multiply your goods, and all foreign lands breathe under it. This passage contrasts the heavens, which are distant yet influential in blessings and prosperity, with the earth, which is close and highly valued. It suggests that while earthly resources are precious, aligning with heavenly principles can bring abundance and influence across distant lands in ancient Mesopotamian belief. Next quote. At harvest time, at the most priceless time, collect like a slave girl, eat like a queen, my son, to collect like a slave girl, to eat like a queen. This is how it should be. This passage advises diligence and frugality during harvest, suggesting one should work hard like a slave girl to gather resources and then enjoy them luxuriously, akin to a queen. It emphasizes the rewards of industriousness and prudence in ancient Mesopotamian agricultural and social contexts. Next quote. To insults can hurt only the skin. Greedy eyes, however, can kill. The liar, shouting tears up his garments. Insults bring advice to the wicked. To speak arrogantly is like an abscess, a herb that makes the stomach sick. My words of prayer bring abundance. Prayer is cool water that cools the heart. Only insults and stupid speaking receive the attention of the land. This passage contrasts the consequences of different behaviors and speech. It warns that insults may only cause superficial harm, while greed and dishonesty can lead to more significant damage. It advises against arrogance and stupidity, which attract negative attention. Instead, it promotes the benefits of prayer, humility, and wise speech, which bring abundance, peace, and positive regard in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. Shuruppak gave these instructions to his son. Shuruppak, the son of Tutu, gave these instructions to his son Zi-ud-sura. This passage signifies the transmission of wisdom and guidance from Shuruppak to his son Ziusudra, highlighting the importance of familial instruction in ancient Mesopotamian culture. It underscores the continuity of values and teachings across generations, emphasizing the responsibility of elders to impart knowledge and the duty of the younger generation to heed and uphold these teachings for the betterment of society and personal conduct. Next quote. You should not beat a farmer's son he has constructed. Your embankments and ditches. This line advises against mistreating a farmer's son because he is responsible for building and maintaining essential infrastructure like embankments and ditches. It highlights the importance of respecting those who contribute to agricultural productivity in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not buy a prostitute. She is a mouth that bites. You should not buy a house-born slave. He is a herb that makes the stomach sick. You should not buy a free man. He will always lean against the wall. You should not buy a palace slave girl. She will always be the bottom of the barrel. You should rather bring down a foreign slave from the mountains, or you should bring somebody from a place where he is an alien, my son. Then he will pour water for you where the sun rises, and he will walk before you. He does not belong to any family, so he does not want to go to his family. He does not belong to any city, so he does not want to go to his city. He cannot knock at the door of. He cannot enter. He will not. With you will not. With you, he will not be presumptuous with you. This advice underscores the importance of choosing trustworthy and obedient servants who will faithfully serve without the complications of familial or civic ties in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. My son, you should not travel alone eastwards. Your acquaintance should not. This passage advises caution against travelling alone to the east, suggesting potential dangers or risks in that direction. It emphasises the importance of having trustworthy companions or acquaintances for safety and support during journeys in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A name placed on another one. You should not pile up a mountain on another one. This passage from the Instructions of Shuruppak advises against burdening or imposing responsibilities on others that are beyond their capacity or rightful role. It emphasises fairness and avoiding undue imposition, suggesting that everyone should bear their own responsibilities in ancient Mesopotamian social interactions. Next quote. Fate is a wet bank. It can make one slip. This line compares fate to a slippery, wet bank, suggesting that it can cause one to falter or lose their footing unexpectedly. It implies that destiny or circumstances can be unpredictable and may lead to unforeseen challenges or setbacks in ancient Mesopotamian perspectives. Next quote. The elder brother is indeed like a father. The elder sister is indeed like a mother. Listen therefore to your elder brother, and you should be obedient to your elder sister as if she were your mother. This passage emphasises the importance of respecting and obeying elder siblings as if they were parental figures. It underscores the familial hierarchy and the responsibilities attributed to elder brothers and sisters in ancient Mesopotamian society, highlighting their role in guiding and nurturing younger siblings. Next quote. You should not work using only your eyes. You will not multiply your possessions using only your mouth. This passage advises against relying solely on observation or verbal promises without taking practical action. It suggests that achieving material success requires active work and effort, not just passive observation or empty words. It emphasises the importance of diligence and practicality in pursuing one's goals in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. The negligent one ruins. His family. This line suggests that negligence or carelessness can lead to the downfall or destruction of one's family. It emphasises the importance of diligence, responsibility and attentiveness in maintaining the well-being and prosperity of one's household. Next quote. The need for food makes some people ascend the mountains. It also brings traitors and foreigners, since the need for food brings down other people from the mountains. This passage reflects on the motivations and consequences of scarcity. It suggests that hunger drives people to extremes, leading some to migrate to higher grounds while prompting others, including strangers and betrayers, to descend in search of sustenance. It underscores the impact of basic needs on human behavior in ancient Mesopotamian contexts. Next quote. A small city provides, its king with a calf, a huge city digs, a house plot. This passage compares the contributions of small and large cities to their rulers. It implies that smaller cities may offer symbolic gifts or tributes, like a calf, to their king, while larger cities are involved in more substantial urban development projects, such as constructing house plots. It reflects on the differing capacities and obligations of cities in ancient Mesopotamian governance and society. Next quote. Is well equipped. The poor man inflicts all kinds of illnesses on the rich man. The married man is well equipped. The unmarried makes his bed in a haystack. He who wishes to destroy a house will go ahead and destroy the house. He who wishes to raise up will go ahead and raise up. This passage contrasts the conditions and outcomes of different individuals and actions. It suggests that those who are well prepared or equipped can affect those who are wealthy or married adversely. Conversely, those with destructive or constructive intentions will act accordingly in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. By grasping the neck of a huge ox, you can cross the river. By moving along, at the side of the mighty men of your city, my son, you will certainly ascend. This passage uses metaphorical language to impart advice. It suggests that by tackling formidable challenges head-on, symbolized by grasping the neck of a huge ox, one can overcome obstacles. And similarly, by aligning oneself with influential figures in the community, one can achieve success and ascend in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. When you bring a slave girl from the hills, she brings both good and evil with her. The good is in the hands, the evil is in the heart. The heart does not let go of the good, but the heart cannot not let go of the evil either. As if it were a watery place, the heart does not abandon the good. Evil is a storeroom. May the boat with the evil sink in the river. May his waterskin split in the desert. It suggests that while they may bring beneficial skills or qualities good in the hands, they also carry potential harm or negative traits evil in the heart. It emphasizes the complexity of human nature and the need to navigate both positive and negative aspects in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A loving heart maintains a family. A hateful heart destroys a family. This line underscores the profound impact of emotions on familial relationships. It highlights that a caring and affectionate attitude within a family contributes to its harmony and well-being, whereas animosity and resentment can lead to discord and ultimately break apart the family unit in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. To have authority, to have possessions and to be steadfast are princely divine powers. You should submit to the respected, you should be humble before the powerful. My son, you will then survive, against the wicked. This passage extols the virtues of authority, possessions, and steadfastness as divine qualities of princely stature. It advises humility and deference towards respected and powerful individuals, suggesting that such traits will ensure survival and protection against malevolent forces in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not choose a wife during a festival. Her inside is illusory. Her outside is illusory. The silver on her is borrowed. The lapis lazuli on her is borrowed. The dress on her is borrowed. The linen garment on her is borrowed. With nothing is comparable. This passage advises caution against choosing a wife solely based on external appearances or during festive occasions. It warns that outward beauty and adornments may be superficial and temporary, likening them to borrowed possessions. The emphasis is on looking beyond superficiality when selecting a life partner in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. You should not buy a bull. You should not buy a vicious bull. A hole. In the cattle pen. This passage advises against purchasing an aggressive or dangerous bull. Such an animal can cause damage, potentially creating problems like breaking out of the cattle pen. It emphasizes the importance of choosing livestock wisely to avoid hazards and ensure safety in ancient Mesopotamian husbandry practices. Next quote. One appoints. A reliable woman for a good household. This line suggests the importance of appointing a trustworthy woman to manage a household effectively. It highlights the role of reliability in ensuring the smooth operation and well-being of the household. Next quote. You should not buy a donkey at the time of harvest. A donkey which eats will with another donkey. This passage advises against purchasing a donkey during harvest time. It implies that a donkey acquired under such circumstances may have already consumed its fill, potentially leading to conflicts or issues when paired with another donkey. It underscores the importance of timing and consideration in acquiring livestock in ancient Mesopotamian agriculture. Next quote. A vicious donkey hangs its neck, however. A vicious man, my son. This passage contrasts the consequences of dealing with a vicious donkey versus a vicious man. It suggests that while a donkey may suffer consequences for its behavior hanging its neck, the repercussions for dealing with a malicious person are likely more severe and complex in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A woman with her own property ruins the house. This line implies that in ancient times a woman who possesses independent wealth or resources can disrupt the harmony or stability of a household. It suggests that her financial independence may lead to conflicts or challenges within the household dynamics in ancient Mesopotamian society. Next quote. A drunkard will drown the harvest. This phrase warns about the detrimental impact of alcoholism on agricultural productivity. It suggests that a person who indulges excessively in drinking will neglect or ruin the harvest, potentially leading to significant losses or failures in ancient Mesopotamian farming practices. Next quote. Quote. A female burglar, ladder, she flies into the houses like a fly. A she donkey, on the street. A so suckles its child on the street. A woman who pricked herself begins to cry and holds the spindle which pricked, her in her hand. She enters every house, she peers into all streets. She keeps saying get out, she looks around, from all parapets. She pants, where there is a quarrel. This passage portrays various negative behaviours and situations involving women, emphasising their potential for mischief, nosiness, and emotional volatility. It reflects societal concerns about women's conduct in ancient Mesopotamia, cautioning against behaviours like burglary, public indecency, and unnecessary quarrelling, viewed through a patriarchal lens. Next quote. Marry, whose heart hates, my son, a heart which overflows with joy, This excerpt advises against marrying someone whose heart is filled with hatred. It emphasizes the importance of choosing a spouse whose heart is joyful and loving. The guidance underscores the significance of emotional compatibility and positivity in marital relationships. Next quote. Next quote. Nothing at all is to be valued, but life should be sweet. You should not serve things, things should serve you. My son, This passage asserts the value of life above material possessions, suggesting that one's existence should be cherished and enjoyed. It encourages a mindset where material goods are viewed as tools to enhance life rather than the focus of existence. Next quote. You should not, grain, its, are numerous. This line advises against wasting or mishandling grain, highlighting its importance and value. It implies that grain is precious and should be treated with care due to its vital role in sustaining life and its potential to provide sustenance for many. Next quote. Next quote. You should not abuse a iwi, otherwise you will give birth to a daughter. You should not throw a lump of earth into the money chest, otherwise you will give birth to a son. This passage uses symbolic language to caution against actions that may have unintended consequences. It suggests that mistreating a iwi may lead to undesirable outcomes, such as the birth of a daughter, while mishandling finances symbolized by throwing earth into a money chest may result in the birth of a son. Next quote. You should not abduct a wife, you should not make her cry, the place where the wife is abducted to, This passage advises against forcefully taking a wife, emphasizing that such an act will bring sorrow. It implies that marriages should be based on mutual consent and respect, highlighting the consequences of disregarding a woman's well-being and disrupting the natural order of marital relationships. Next quote. Let us run in circles, saying, oh my foot, oh my neck. Let us with united forces, make the mighty bow. This passage metaphorically suggests engaging in futile activities or distractions, running in circles, and then focusing collective efforts on a significant task, making the mighty bow. It underscores the importance of unity in purposeful action, contrasting aimless busyness with meaningful endeavors that require cooperation and strength. Next quote. You should not kill a ... he is a child born by ... you should not kill ... like ... you should not bind him. This passage advises against harming or killing certain beings, likely emphasizing compassion and respect for life, regardless of their nature or circumstances of birth. Next quote. The wet nurses in the women's quarters determine the fate of their lord. This statement suggests that the women who care for children in their household have significant influence over the well-being and future of their master or employer. Next quote. You should not speak arrogantly to your mother, that causes hatred for you. You should not question the words of your mother and your personal God. The mother, like you too, gives birth to the man. The father, like a god, makes him bright. The father is like a god, his words are reliable. The instructions of the father should be complied with. This passage emphasizes respect and obedience towards one's mother and father. It underscores the importance of parental guidance and their role in shaping a person's character and life. Next quote. Without suburbs, a city has no center either. This statement implies that suburbs are integral to the existence and functioning of a city. They contribute to its overall structure and vitality, suggesting that a city cannot thrive or function effectively without them. Next quote. My son, a field situated at the bottom of the embankments, be it wet or dry, is nevertheless a source of income. This advice emphasizes the practical value of owning a field, regardless of its specific location or condition. It suggests that any field, whether in a low or high area, can still yield profit and should be considered valuable for generating income. Next quote. It is inconceivable, that something is lost forever. This statement suggests a belief in the possibility of recovery or restoration of lost things. It implies that nothing is permanently lost beyond recovery, indicating an optimistic view that lost items or situations can eventually be found or resolved. Next quote. Of Dilmun. No idea what that means. Next quote. To get lost is bad for a dog but terrible for a man. An unknown place is terrible. To get lost is shameful. For a dog. On the unfamiliar way at the edge of the mountains, the gods of the mountains are man-eaters. They do not build houses there as men do. They do not build cities there as men do. The text emphasizes the dangers and unfamiliarity of venturing into unknown territories, particularly at the edges of mountains where the environment is harsh and inhabited by fearsome deities. It contrasts the vulnerability of humans and animals in such perilous places. Next quote. For the shepherd, he stopped searching, he stopped bringing back the sheep. For the farmer, he stopped ploughing the field. This passage from the Instructions of Shuruppak suggests that once someone gives up or neglects their responsibilities, such as a shepherd abandoning the search for lost sheep, or a farmer ceasing to plough the fields, disruption and neglect follow, affecting their livelihood and responsibilities. Next quote. This gift of words is something which soothes the mind. When it enters the palace, it soothes the mind. The gift of many words. Stars. The text emphasizes the power of articulate speech to calm and influence. It suggests that eloquence and diplomacy are valued attributes, capable of soothing troubled minds and achieving influence, even likening such skill to the brilliance and impact of stars in the night sky. Next quote. Praise be to the lady who completed the great tablets, the maiden Nisaba, Kurupag, the son of Ubara Tutu, gave his instructions.